All right, good morning. So I want to talk a little bit about this. What makes a system? Or yeah, maybe that's it. What makes a system? I see our game Dark Age of Man as a setting and a set of rules on how to do a thing. But Dark Age of Man introduces concepts. It's not so much a system. I mean, it can be a system as far as how you create a character. Those are rules. So yes, in that sense, how what dice you use and how you go about deciding, challenges, right? With a dice check. Um, we we talk about the concepts of naive narrator being in a presenter seat as a GM, in a naive narrator, as opposed to being the storyteller, or being the guy who comes with a module and a mission and attack that you're going to put the players through. And then we provide, I guess, a system for how to create a single session, a rules process for how to create a one-page preparation for being a naive narrator, so you're not without tools to introduce to the characters on their journeys. But we don't set out to define a style of role play, and we don't set out. And I told this to Dell a couple of weeks ago. My journey has been a GM coming to the table as a player and finding out what it's like to be on the other side of the table in all of these different games. So my game was about, because again, I retired twice since 2010 as a GM. I retired. I didn't want to GM anymore. And so this is Dark Age of Man and the development, what it became and why it happened is my dissatisfaction with GMing traditionally anymore. And it was, in a way, Dark Age of Man is about how to GM differently. It's not about role playing. However, we give advice that players should take great agency, because you can't be a wallflower in our game. You should be asking less questions and doing more actions. And so for the GM to be a naive narrator, the players have to be active. They have to take agency, right? And we just define that loosely in the book. We tell people how to go about doing that. But how you role play, in character, out of character, third person, first person, all that's up to your groups, up to you, is how you do your thing. But I wrote and developed Dark Age of Man with Dell as really from the GM seat. How can we do this thing differently? How can we make an environment for the players that's different? And so those were concepts, not set out to create a system. You could do this with any game. You could do, particularly with, I'm going to say this, with simple games. The way we developed this, or I developed this, was with In Darkest Warrens, free, pay what you want, single page RPG, and Astonishing Interplanetary Adventures. I developed this exact concepts for naive narrator, presenter seat guidelines, and my role at the table as a GM with those simple games. So games that you either have mastered. I mean, those who have mastered Pathfinder could probably do this to some degree. However, Pathfinder, because of its tactical elements, and making sure combats are somewhat balanced for the party, so they're not underpowered, or etc. Probably not ideal to go in unprepared in Pathfinder, right? You could have, obviously, you could have encounters ready in Pathfinder that are on your RSC, that are balanced for your party, but then have no particular goal, right? That's kind of how I would try. I would do, if I was to do naive narrator in D&D 5th edition or Pathfinder, or a game that requires even 2D20 Conan, or something that requires that you kind of build encounters. My RSC might have those encounters on the table and not just variables, right? So, but this made me think, because Ivan this morning wrote me privately, said that he was thinking about running something, um, using in a way, the Dark Age of Man. I don't think he said system. I don't think he said quote unquote system, but it made me think, is our game a system? I think it's a setting and a set of rules, and then we talk about these. We talk about the way you should use the rules, and we talk about the way you should GM our game, and then we invite the players to take more agency. But we don't define a system, so to speak. I don't think, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Dark Age of Man in its entirety is a system. I don't know. That's a great question. But for me, it's more about concepts. And I think a lot of these conversations around our community in our hobby techniques are concepts. They're concepts that can be indulged. They're concepts that can be honed. There's concepts that can be turned into disciplines. There's concepts that can be evolved into system or theories. They're theories that can become, I suppose, system or rules, right? And that's an interesting thing. So I've said before, I don't know. I think I said to Dell, I don't know what would we call our system. We never really could come up with. I would say probably naive narrator, because the most important element of Dark Age of Man is that the GM doesn't know, right? Does not know. They only know what the players know to start for the most part. Where we're at, what time it is, who the main NPCs are, what's going on in the world that the players are aware of as well. But then we just don't know anything else, right? We shouldn't decide. And that I think I would probably call our system the naive narrator system, if that is a thing, because it's not a D20 dice system. It's not a dice pool. It's, you could use any method to resolve your conflicts. Rock, paper, scissors, arm wrestle, dice pool system, D20. I don't care how you resolve your conflicts. Skill-based D100 system. It's the concepts start and end with how the GM presents the game, and then that the players really will have to take a bit more agency in where they're going and why they're doing it, and their motivations and things like that should matter. But I've never seen our game as a system. I've seen our game as a standalone. I mean, it is in its complete package. It is what it is, but it's full of concepts that you could take and use with your favorite game, right? That's kind of how I would categorize Dark Age of Man. All right. Anyway, it's a question worth pondering, right? I tend to use the term system a lot, and I tend to use it interchangeably, probably with concepts or techniques. And the reality is, concepts, theories, techniques are really different than systems. It's an interesting question. How would we define a system, right? As far as role-playing games. So, all right, everybody out there, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.